In this video, we'll talk about editing jobs. When you log into the system, you can see a list of all of the jobs, and you can view them and update them to make changes. First, we'll go to the jobs list. Like we mentioned in the video that is specifically about the job list, we can choose one of these filters. For now, I'll just select all jobs. As a side note, we can refer to this as the job section or the invoices section. Those terms are interchangeable. I'll scroll down on this page a bit. To make changes to a job, I'll find it on this list. I'll click on Available Actions, and then I'll click View/Update Job. For the rest of this video, we'll go through the different values on this Update Job page. The concepts here are related to how customers work in the system and how properties work in the system, and so it might be best to view those videos first if there is any confusion. As we talked about in the customer video, this Submit Invoice To value is for the financially responsible party. There might be more than one customer, and so this value can be changed to flip between customers, depending on who is actually going to be paying the bill. For example, this can happen if you have a tenant set up on the property and you have a landlord set up on the property. When there's a dispute where the landlord actually defaults the payment to the tenant, we can use this to switch who pays. As long as we've linked the tenant customer and the landlord customer, we can click here and change the Submit Invoice To switch who is responsible for paying. When you create the job invoice, it will have you enter an address. The system will then do a search and determine if we've serviced that property before to connect it to a known property in the system. If there isn't an existing property record with that address, you'll be automatically taken to the Create Property page to make one before continuing. Otherwise, if there is a known property, the system will connect it with the known property and you can continue making the job invoice. An important part of the job invoice is entering the job problem. Essentially, this is a label that shows up on the technician's side. That way, when they accept a job or when they get a job offered to them, this way they know that they have the right tools on their truck and so on. This job problem is also important because it's related to the booking hints. These are the hints that we saw in the technician profile and we saw on the video that talked about job types. Refer to the video on job list and job types to learn more about this process. Essentially, the system will look for keywords inside this job problem. The keywords are booking hints, and the system will look for these hint keywords and determine the job type automatically. Next, I'll talk about internal notes. These internal notes can be used to pass notes back and forth. They can say, booked job on 12/21, customer wants service on 12/27. These are ways that information can be passed back and forth. It's an internal note. It's not confused with anything that we would show out to the customer. For scope of work, this provides more context in addition to just the job problem. This describes what the work is that we're actually going to perform. This is important for home improvement contracts. Next, we have this customer purchase order, also known as customer reference number. Commercial clients or property managers often have their own internal job numbers. Whenever they're referencing a job, they're going to want to use their own number. So we give the ability to track that number here. Next, we have the scheduled date. One reason why it's useful to have a scheduled date here is that we can help check that there aren't too many jobs set for one day. If you know that an average of 8 jobs a day can be done, then we can see on the job screen that there shouldn't be more than 8 jobs. Scheduled time is used for a similar reason. For example, if we know we can complete 2 jobs an hour, we're going to schedule this job for that time, and along with the estimated completion time hour, it will help us know for dispatching. For example, if James is a technician, and James will probably be off this job at 3:30 at this day, we know that we can schedule a next one for 4 o'clock. The job type is shown here. Why can't the job type be changed? Because jobs might have custom questions and information that's specific to that job type. That information would be incorrect if the job type were changed. Next, this is showing if this is a residential property. There's a place for estimated cost. For estimated cost, this pertains to that setting we saw in the technician workflow settings. It pertains back to whether or not this field shows up on the technician side, and this field will also generate things like the home improvement contract as needed. This is for the case where residential property on the invoice is set to yes. There are cases where home improvement contracts don't always have to be used, even in California, such as the case for pre-bid companies. In this case, they actually go out and bid the work, and then the information that gets entered into our system is only the quotes that have already been approved. Now we're seeing an example of a custom field. Just like with customers and properties, we can have custom fields that are available on the job invoice. This can track whatever information we need. For example, a flooring company could use this to track how much linoleum is in a property, how many square yards of carpet they're going to need, how many linear feet of baseboards, and so on. So it's a way to track useful information on a job type. Job special instructions work the same way as property special instructions and customer special instructions. The difference is that customer special instructions are applied to any property that the customer is assigned to. Property special instructions are applied to any job that the property is assigned to, and these job special instructions are just for this job. It's a cascading effect. This could be used for notes that are passed to the technician pertaining to this job only, such as requesting to use only copper pipes, or information like that. Here, documents can be attached. For this, these are documents that are only particular to this job. This could be a good place to add permits. We can designate whether to show these documents to technicians or not show them. This contact information place shows all of the customer information for all of the people related to this job. So as you build relationships and get contact information, this section can grow to show all of the customer information in one place for the property that's being serviced. Next, I'll go through some of the other tabs. I'll start with this Photos tab. Here we can see photos that are attached to the job. There's Start Photos, Progress Photos, and Finish Photos. As we saw on the Job Type Settings page, different job types set rules on the minimum and maximum number of photos for different stages of the process. For the start stage, generally at least one photo is required. The finished photos are added at the end of the technician workflow. Photos can be added by clicking this Add Another. Next, we'll talk about the Accounting tab. The Accounting tab handles all of the accounting information. There are the purchase orders, the charges, and the payments. Inside of each of these, the page will show the headers that are going to be required or available for our customer to fill out. These have a description field so that additional information can be added. Next, I'll go to the Technicians tab. Under the Technicians tab, we basically have all of the activity that is recorded by technicians on this job. So, if 3 technicians were sent out to a job, you'd see all 3 of them show up here. If they were sent out for multiple days, in the records here, you would see every day that they went out to the job. As you can see, we're tracking basic information such as the primary tech, the dispatch date, driving information, odometer information, and some of these can be selected to be turned on or off within the technician workflow settings. If I scroll down here and then scroll to the right and then scroll back up, I can see that there's a pay column. This is an example of something that can be turned on within the technician workflow settings. Now I'll go back. Now we're back on the Update Job page. We can use this Audit Trail tab to see the changes that have been made. It will show who accessed it, who has saved it, what they've changed, and so on. Once we've made all the changes we want, we can use this Save button to apply the changes. Essentially, these job invoices are modified by the customizations from across the system. Everything we've set up in accounting settings, customizations, application settings, job settings, they all apply here in this section. This is the end of the video. We've gone over how to make updates to jobs in the system.